Hello, welcome back to Emperor's Path, and today I'm going to be doing a little layout update for you. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time you're watching this. Apologies for being away for so long. Disclosure, I got pneumonia. And basically was hospitalised and have basically been recovering since. And due to that, I wasn't able to climb into the loft for quite a long period of time. I physically didn't have the strength or the lung capacity to do it. However, now I'm getting better. I'm not myself, but I'm way better than I was when I was in hospital. I'm able to get up into the loft, as you can see around you. And apologies, it is very hot up here, and I didn't realise that until I started filming. However, there's been loads of changes to the layout since the last time you saw it. Whilst I wasn't necessarily able to come up into the loft, I also couldn't work with aerosol spray paints and plastic glue and stuff like that. So hobby-wise, I was sort of in this weird limbo where I really wanted to do lots of hobby, but couldn't. So I'm going to go over a few things that I've done. I'll also talk about some of the stuff that I was able to do whilst I was unable to get into the loft. We'll go over new additions to the layout, things that I've done and what I plan on doing, and hopefully I'll be able to get some thoughts from yourselves. Without further ado, let's go and have a look at the layout. Okay, so the layout is looking very different to the last time you saw it. I believe the last time you guys saw it was the first loop had been done and I'd pretty much finished the second one as well. And now, because of the time off I had and I was able to save up money, and because of my birthday, I was able to get presents related to the railway, and I was able to use birthday money to purchase stuff that I probably wouldn't have been able to purchase before because I'm terrible at saving up money sometimes. So what I'll do is I will start from the left-hand side of the layout where the fiddle yard starts and the layout, where the fiddle yard starts / ends and the layout begins, which would be the coming from Portsmouth and Southsea going into Fratton side of the layout. So probably worth mentioning at this point that whilst I'm going to be modelling a lot of the stuff on the layout like the stuff in Fratton, I've taken the decision that I'm going to be using a few bits of artistic license and changing some things that I want to help sometimes improve the layout, sometimes improve like what I can do in modelling terms, and sometimes just so that it's more fun. But I'll talk over that as we're going into it. So over here now, there is the third line coming from Fratton, which would go off to Portsmouth and Southsea. I did say that I didn't know how I was going to deal with those, but at the moment I've got one siding here which I'll extend, but probably won't go off into the fiddle yard. This third line here, only recently built, basically goes off into the fiddle yard, and that'll act as you can go in and go out sort of thing, so you could still bring all the coaches and carriages in as well. So that's where the fiddle yard would end and the layout would start. So I've got the points here with the third line. So you'll probably be able to see with some of my birthday money I was able to purchase some seat motors, which I'm going to use to do the points wiring. Now what I've decided to do, so that it means that I can test each motor before I install it on the layout, I'm going to be adding the wires to each point motor, but also putting these little clasp clips. You get them on a lot of electrical stuff, and the reason I'm doing that is because it means that I've got a quick way of, without having to resolder, desolder different parts, it means that I can hook these up to my little station I've got downstairs and test that they're all working before bringing them up to the loft, installing them, and then finding that the motor doesn't actually work. It's also a good way to problem solve it because it means I'm not crawling under the tables or anything. This means that I can run just wires with the correct ends, so I believe these are the male parts, so on the female versions of it will be running under the layout, and it means I can pull them off and I'll be able to work out if I need to change cables because they've broken. Hopefully it'll be a lot easier than having to take solder off. So I purchased 12 of those, which almost covers all the points on the layout now. It'll cover most of the main lines going into the station, and I think I need to get 3 or 4 more for the extra points that we've got. So coming in here, you've got all of the express points. So one thing that I did get was I've been using Hornby points for the layout up until this section here, and the reason for that is that growing up, Hornby was always the thing, like that was the big deal. And as you get more and more into the model railway side of things, you do find that people talk about the Pico stuff a lot more. So I started using the Pico Flex track on the layout, and then I decided to go, oh, well, let's have a look at Hornby at Pico points and see what the deal is with them. And I'm gonna say I really like them, and whilst the Hornby points are good, I wonder whether it was worth investing in the Pico points to begin with. And the price isn't that different. In fact, these Pico medium points come in cheaper than the express points. All the express points I bought from Hornby were second hand as well, but they work, they do the job. They're a little bit longer, so we'll see. If it turns out that running the layout in the future, the Hornby points are causing problems, then we'll change them over. I am going to be using Insel Frog points, mainly because less wiring for me to have to worry about. Further down the line that may change and I may invest in Electro Frog points, but we'll get to that when it comes to it. So at this point, this is when you've got all 4 lines coming from the effective Portsmouth and Southsea area, and it comes around this corner, and then that's when the station's going to start. So in this area here on the corner, this is where I'm planning on building the bridge, which will be the Fratton Bridge, a footway and road bridge. It'll be nice because it'll be a nice little break, and it also covers up some of the imperfections on this corner that I'm not happy with. The running's fine on this corner, and I haven't had any problems with derailments or anything like that. Just visually, it's not necessarily tidy, so the bridge will be able to cover up here. And then as you come into the station now, you've got the 2 main lines. You've got the outward bound on the back, then you've got the inward bound second, then you've got the platform 3, which is used occasionally. Then you've got some extra tracks here, which if you look at the Google Maps view of Fratton Station and all of the areas, it would, not necessarily to scale, it would look like this. A couple of relief tracks and a fueling depot for the diesel locomotives that are there. Now, anybody who knows Portsmouth better than me will be able to correct me on this. I'm pretty sure the only diesel locos that you get at Fratton are the Great Western DMUs that go off to Cardiff and Bristol and places like that. So I think that's the only thing there, possibly for any visiting diesels bringing in freight, but the freight going into Portsmouth isn't exactly a big thing nowadays. So yeah, so what I've decided to do with this area is I was really torn between having the fueling depot because it would look cool, or having something with a bit more functionality. And eventually, with some help from people on Instagram, I was able to have a look at the layout and what I could do with it. So at the fueling station, you would have this little catch bit. It was a lot shorter than this to sort of any runaway diesels or anything like that. And in the real Fratton, at this sort of area, you'd have another set of points that would go off towards the carriage sheds where they'd store all the EMUs and DMUs in the Fratton depot. Because of the space, I decided to not have the carriage shed siding coming off here, but there's a possibility with this slip here I would be able to put in a first radius curve for the Class 8 shunter to sort of go down here and to shunt coaches. In theory, I think I've got enough space that I could, if I really wanted to, put an inglenook in here using coaches, which could be fun. Alternatively, I could make a loco shed or a depot for the diesels. I've got a fair amount of diesel, so that could be quite fun. So that's something that doesn't need doing right away, but it's something that I want to work on in the future. So I put this in here as a little failsafe so that when the time comes I can go here. And it will probably be a siding that is hidden from the main area and comes around here. If I really wanted to, I could use it as just sort of like a storage fiddle yard, but I don't think that's what I want to use this particular part for. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, it would be nice to put some scenery in here, but on this particular part, on the real railway, this is where it has high walls on either side of the tracks, and it's because that's where the old Portsmouth Canal used to be, and then they built the railroad in there as the Portsmouth Canal failed miserably. So from a modelling point of view, the idea would be that you'd have retaining walls up either side. If I'm going to build a little depot down here or a sort of carriage shed, then I probably won't build the retaining walls on here. Alternatively, you build the retaining walls on here and then you can put some scenery up on this top bit. We'll see. And then underneath you could have a secret storage area. I'm definitely going to put the retaining wall on the other side because I think it will look nice from a scenery point of view. This wall at the back here and at the other end as well, I'm going to plan on getting some fabric just to sort of hang here so it covers up all the brickwork, because not my favourite thing to look at, and it's a early 1908 I think the house was built in, so some of the brickwork is questionable and some of the cement coming out is questionable as well. So yeah, that bit comes down here. So at the moment, loads of sidings to store trains, coaches and stuff like that in there, and a nice long platform as well. I think on platform 3, which is in theory the smaller side, the smaller station platform at the moment, I can get a diesel and 6 coaches, maybe 5, but 4 or 5 coaches is what a lot of my old locos can handle. So having four coaches per train's not a bad thing. It looks nice as well. Then you don't always have to stop at an exact point on the station platforms either. The other thing I really wanted to do since even designing the layout is there used to be a Portsmouth or a Southsea East station in Portsmouth that used to run from Fratton. It used to be on this sort of side of everything, and it used to go off and it would go down Goldsmith Avenue and it would end near Canoe Lake, which is right near Southsea Seafront. It was a failed little branch line. It didn't recuperate the money that it cost to run, and didn't get enough passengers on it. But I like the idea of it. It's a part of the city that I didn't know until recently even had a rail network on it. So what I thought would be a really nice idea on this layout is to have remnants of the Southsea East branch line. And I wanted to build a platform here that goes off down the end of the table and goes off scene, and basically has a shuttle system built into it. If you don't know what a shuttle system is, it's basically where you have the ability for a train to come in and go off and then drive back again, and it does it all. It's on a loop in essence on one piece of track. You can do it in more technical versions of it, but on the simplest version you have one line of track. On that line of track you have a train that starts at point A, finishes at point B, then returns to point A. And I thought that'd be a really nice thing to have. My DMU at the end there might be the source of that, or alternatively I could make it look like a heritage branch line, where you've got some of the steam locomotives bringing a coach or two up along here. The theory behind it is there is a walkway bridge that goes from this side of the road and it goes across to the station, which is on the far side there. There is a walkway that goes down to the maintenance area there, which was originally the stairs to get down onto the old Southsea East platform that would go off to Southsea East. So I thought what I could do is with that bridge, I'm going to try and recreate it and have a little stairway that comes down here and have another platform here. And I've worked out I could have a three coach or 3 car platform, no problem whatsoever, with space to spare. Still have space for this to go off as well. And I thought that'd be a nice little project to sort of work up towards the end, because I like the shuttle system and I think it's a nice way that you'd be able to use it. They're quite inexpensive, and when I get round to doing it, I will try and video that, because it's something that I really, really want to do. Talking about the points and stuff as well, I have drilled the necessary holes underneath each point for the point motors to be installed as well. There is one point that, due to spacing and a little bit of, I'm going to say, poor planning on my part, I will require a surface mounted point for, which is this one here. So I'm going to have a look and see what my options are for that. I might be able to work something else out, but unfortunately this goes right across the join, and there are support boards just underneath here as well. But that's not a massive problem. Having one out of, I think, 15 or 16 points on the table isn't a bad thing. It's the first time I'll ever be doing underneath points on a layout, so we'll see how that plans out. So then, going out, you've got your 2 lines going on along there. All of the lines basically come round this corner and join to just go 2, which go off the island. Coming around here. This, I think, will be my big scenery piece. I think I'm going to have a nice tunnel mouth. The train line goes through the old fort on the north of the island. It will create a nice little scene stop, but also something quite nice to model. It's not your necessarily your usual thing that you get, that the train goes through a fort to get off the island, so that would be quite cool to model. There's only 2 lines as well. In terms of space, I've got a lot of space on that side, and as you get out towards that part of the island, you do tend to get factories, but you also get some nice scenic areas as well. So I think this will probably be my area to really model the bigger part of the scenery, with buildings and nice sort of woodland scenery as well, because as you get out to that fort, that's where we have Fox's Forest, which is a nice little forest, once again, before you get off the island. So yeah, this part will be a nice big scenery piece. Keep it quite plain. You'll have the shuttle running around this corner, and it will come under here. This will be hidden, and it will be where the it will be hidden underneath the sort of the hills and the embankments and stuff like that. I'm saying that now, and I'm wondering whether it would be fun to do a little branch line platform there. Leave a comment down below if you think I should go the branch line platform, or you think I should keep it simple and have just something nicely modelled here with lots of scenery and stuff like that, and have the branch line shuttle hidden, so that I've got a nice storage area. And once again, there's options that I can do further down the line for that as well. Coming around here, this is where it goes into the fiddle yard. You'll see these coaches here. In one of my previous videos, I talked about the Royal Mail coaches that came in the Royal Mail train set when I was younger. My mum and dad purchased me 4 of these coaches. Now, they're not the open and shut special mechanism ones, they're just 4 Royal Mail coaches, and I believe they're all brake vans, but I love the way they look. I know they're not everyone's favourite. These ones were painted, the roofs were painted black on this to look a bit more normal, and I quite like it. I've also got a Parcels Intercity motor rail car, which I got on eBay for quite a steal, so I was quite happy with that. And that will all go with this Royal Mail coach. Now, there is a 4th one, but when I talk about couplings in a second, we're going to talk about some of the problems I've had with those. And yeah, and then that just runs all the way along there. You see some of the rubbish sort of going on, and you've got mostly 2 lanes with that third lane at the very end there, which is going to be effectively acting as maybe another shuttle line or storage line. So yeah, so that is the layout. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put you back towards the table in a second, and we're going to talk about other parts. Okay, so I've got you under the light, so hopefully you'll be able to see all of this. So something I purchased probably a couple of months ago now, before I was in hospital, was a coupling upgrade kit by Vectis Models. He has his own YouTube channel, and I'll put a link in the description below. And he does various little NEM adapters that you can fit to your rolling stock or your locos, which allow you to use the NEM coupling, so you can use your sort of the close coupling bits like this, or you can put KD couplings in. So I purchased a pack for, I have a lot of Lima rolling stock, and I have quite a lot of Hornby rolling stock. So I purchased the Lima set for the coaches, and I also purchased the Hornby set, the stepped one in particular, magically, when I looked at all the Hornby stuff that I had, none of it was non-stepped, which you'll see in the videos on his account on Made Me, which is where you can buy them from, or you can buy them from eBay. They're cheaper on Made Me because he doesn't have to pay the eBay fees, and once again I'll put a link on for that. And they are fantastic bits of kit. Now, a little pre-warning, if you have a rotary tool, it probably makes it easier. I did all of mine with a pair of clippers and a knife and a file. And I haven't had any problems with the actual fit onto the locos. Any big gaps I've filled in with modelling putty and things like that. So the reason I did this was because I wanted to try and get rid of as many of the big D-lock couplings like this as possible. And it was extremely easy. Now, I've had no problems with the Lima kit. The Lima kit works perfectly, and actually the way that it's sized up means that you have a gauge of where you need to cut because of, let's see if I can get a nice picture of that. Because of this little box bit here, it gives you an idea of where you need to cut to fit the NEM pocket into, which is really handy. So, most of my Lima coaches, including this Motorel one here, have all been upgraded. So I need to weather this, in which case what I'll do is when I'm spraying I'll be able to get rid of the frost from the super glue. So this has now got small NEM couplings, but it's also got a KD coupling at the other end. I'm playing around with KD couplings and NEM pocket couplings. I want to have the normal tension lock couplings for a set of coaches, and then on either end have a KD coupling, so that I'll be able to perform maybe some shunting manoeuvres and stuff like that, whether that's with my Class 8 diesel or these diesels as well. So my Royal Mail 47 and my Network Southeast 47 have both had this upgrade done. So I messaged Vectis Models and said, look, I really like the idea of these couplings. I want to upgrade my Class 47s. They're old Hornbys. Would you be able to make a kit that would fit it? Sent him some pictures and he said, no, they're too small. I won't be able to fit it on there. Sorry. So I got the Hornby stepped ones in and I was like, well, I really want these locos. This is my favourite loco at the moment on the layout. I really want these to have newer couplings on them. So I thought, right, the little bogie chassis are cheap enough to get if I break it or anything, so I'm going to bite the bullet. So on this one and the Network Southeast one, what I did was I basically followed almost exactly the same instructions as doing the stepped couplings, because this was also a slightly stepped coupling, and I was able to fit the NEM pocket on there. And I'm going to say I actually found it easier putting it on this Class 47 than I did on any of the coaches. For some reason it just seemed to fit better, work better, didn't have certain gaps in certain areas. So Mr. Vectis Models, if you're watching, it does work, and you feel free to sell these kits saying that they do work on the Hornby Class 47 bogies that look like this. It was really easy to do. What I've done on both models as well is I've left the old standard tension lock coupling on there as well. Mainly in case I needed to hook up to other types of stock, but I'm going to order some more of the Hornby ones and some more of the Lima ones. They're great kits, they're really good value for money. I think I paid £6 or £7 per kit and I got 16 in each of them, which is great. So you have enough to do 8 full coaches if you want, and then you have to buy your particular choice of coupling. So whether it's the little NEM pockets, KDs, or you want to get some of the West Hill Wagon Works close coupling systems as well, which would be good on some of the Racer coaches that I've got. So yeah, I said that I didn't have any problems with the Lima ones. The only problem I have had with the Hornby one, it's a little bit more fiddly to fit, and you have to do a little bit more guesswork. There's no sort of guide that you can use on the bogies to do it. But the actual biggest problem I've had on them is that either the pocket is too small or too tight, or I've just been extremely rough with them. I've had 3 of the Hornby coupling bits snap off at the bottom, so where the coupling sits in there. So let's see if I can get this to focus. So this bit here at the bottom, this came straight off, just sort of like as a flat piece. And as I said, I had a bit of a struggle putting the KD and the couplings on the Lima ones was fine, didn't have any real pressure, but with the Hornby ones they were very tight to put in, so I might message and say, look, the hole needs to be a little bit bigger. I'm not mad at Vectis Models, it's one of those things. They do work, and as I said, not all of my rolling stock have had that problem. I've just had 2 or 3 where the flat bit at the bottom has just snapped off, and it means that I either need to glue the couplings in place or buy a new pack of couplings, which I'll probably be doing anyway, because as I said, they're really useful and they make a big difference to how the models look without the big massive decouplings on there. So in one of my last videos I did say that I'd show you how I do my track and how I put the cork down underneath. I got carried away, I'm going to be really honest. I just wanted to get the track built and didn't think about actually sort of videoing it. I was often sat up here late at night laying all of this down, but in essence what I did was I used a piece of track like this and I measured how thick the cork needed to be. As you can see, mine's quite thin line, like I haven't got a massive overlap on either side, which is fine by me. I measured that and I cut a lot of strips of it, and what I do is I lay the strips where they need to go. In between the points and stuff, I tend to custom fit or use offcuts and stuff like that and fill it in later. As it came to corner pieces, what I found I was doing was I'd get a section of cork that was about this long, and I just cut an angle on it, and basically, hopefully you can see that. I know lighting up here isn't that great, but what I was able to do using that cork is by cutting the angle, it just means you can bend it a little bit each time depending on the curve on the piece of track that you're using, and you curve it around the track, and I found that quite useful. It meant that I wasn't having a lot of wastage by laying it down and then tracing it to the curve on there. So yeah, laying track is quite therapeutic, I find, once you get into the swing of it. I haven't glued my track down. I'm going to be using pins. It's just my preferred method. I find getting the pins out is easy enough, and drilling little tiny pilot holes for everything, it just made more sense to me. And I found that when I was using the flex track, pinning it was a lot easier because I didn't have to hold it in place with anything. The pin did that for me, so that's where we are with that. What I also do is I tend to use sort of instant nails or anything that resembles like a no more nails type substance. Use it in a mastic gun, and what I do is I put it on the back of the cork, and then I use a spatula-esque, apologies, this is filthy. I use a spatula-esque device, or you can use an old Tesco club card or something like that, and I spread it across the bit of cork, turn it over, put it where it needs to go, and so far I've had no problems with anything being too stuck or anything like that, or any pieces coming up, and it's been quite useful. In terms of looking at the track and sort of going forward with like ballasting and stuff like that, I really want to get on with ballasting because it will start to make the layout look a lot better. Because of my health, I have steered well clear of my airbrush, hence why a lot of my rolling stock looks extremely shiny and clean, which if you've been watching the channel before you'll know that I'm not necessarily a massive fan on, so I'm gonna have to start working out what I can do with that. I've been a bit scared to use it, to be honest, but it's something that eventually I'll need to come to because I'm going to have to do it for the track as well. Now I don't have great ventilation up here, so I'm going to have to make sure I have a fan on, and I'm wearing a proper mask, not just sort of like a face mask to do it. I have got a breathing mask from doing DIY, like cutting concrete slabs and stuff like that, so I could always use that. But that is next on the agenda really, but before I do that I want to get the platforms put down for the station. I did have enough to go all the way along the back there for that back station bit, but when I decided to put in this extra platform here, it worked out that I could either build the whole platform down the front here and the platform in the middle for platforms 2 and 3, or I could put platform 1 in, platform 2 and 3, and then not have this yet. And because it's going to be quite a big scenery piece, I thought, you know what, I want to get a whole platform down, I'll just need to purchase another couple of packs of the Pico stuff. I'm going to be using the brick type fascias on them, mainly because it fits with the Fratton theme. I prefer the concrete ones, but I decided to go with sticking with the theme and the layout of what everything is around here. So yeah, ballasting, weathering track, and getting the station in are next on the agenda. I'm currently slowly doing the points motors when I have a chance to do soldering. I'm not the best at soldering, so for me it's a slow process, it's a messy process, but it's getting there slowly. So I've said it already, but I'm going to say it again. So I'm going to get the points motors installed first. I'm going to get the platforms put down so that I know all the spacing. Once that's done, I'm going to be able to start ballasting, and I will probably start from the station so that I have a nice scenic area, and then work my way outwards, going either way towards each end of the fiddle yard. Another thing that I've come across since I've been laying all the track and stuff is, whilst I put as much effort into making sure all my baseboards and stuff were straight whilst building, and when it came to installing them, there are some areas of the track that either weren't level or had some issues with them. So I'm just going to talk about those now. Some of the issues I have fixed, some of them I need to look at. One of the biggest issues I had is that this section over here coming from the fiddle yard was on way more of a slant than I thought. When I put the boards in, I used a spirit level and it all looked okay. By the time I'd started laying the track, it turned out that there was a little bit more of a hill than I wanted. To remedy that, what I've actually done is I've put an extra layer of cork underneath this section, and then when it meets this baseboard here, it's only one layer. So I use 4mm cork, so in essence you've got 8mm worth of cork over here. Because this part will be mainly scenic, slash fiddle yard, where this bit ends as a break here, I'm not too worried about the fact that it's going to have really high bits there. That will just be something I'll work on. But that's the biggest problem I've come across so far. I've had a few issues with trains not necessarily going around the tracks as much as possible. Most of those have been over some of the Hornby Express points that I put in. Most locos don't have a problem with it. I've done some running around with the new areas of track. My wiring needs to get sorted, and I need to have a big think about what I want to do, but because the sheer amount of track that I'm using, I am seriously considering going to DCC so that if I have locos on here, I can control them all individually. It's not something that I ever wanted to do when I started this layout, but the more that it's gone on, the more I've seriously considered doing it. The problem being that a lot of my locos are old and aren't DCC ready. The two locos that I can think of that are ready are my Class 08 shunter, and I recently treated myself to a Hornby Class 50, which is DCC ready as well. Beautiful locos, and I can't wait to get the Class 50 running around regularly on the layout. Now, I could very slowly upgrade everything to DCC. That's not necessarily a problem. It would mean I'd have to stop purchasing stuff for the layout in order to do it. I also don't have a computer up here to control the current Hornby Railmaster that I have. I can get hold of a cheap one, that's not a problem. But it's something that I need to think about, that I would need a computer to run it, or purchase a DCC controller, which I don't have, and most of the sets that I've looked at are actually quite expensive. So then once again it comes to the thing of, is it worth doing it because of the cost that it's going to incur? That's something I've seriously considered, and the more I build this layout, the more I seriously consider it, especially when it comes to running locos around here. It'll be easy to sort of go, right, I want to move this one, but not this one. Because at the moment, I tend to have to shut off certain areas of track to run it. Now, all of the areas of track can run a loco in them, but it does mean that the outside loop can pretty much run continuously, whereas loop 2 has to switch between platform 2, 3, and the extra sidings over here. So that's something that I really need to think about. I could spend a couple of months worth of hobby budget to purchase some decoders. Fitting them into old locos isn't necessarily the worst thing in the world. That's just something I need to think about. If you yourself have installed into old locos and haven't had a problem, please let me know, because I'd be really interested to see whether it's something worth doing. I don't necessarily need any more locos at the moment, so I'm not outwardly going to be purchasing any newer locos so that I can run DCC on this layout. Points control will not be DCC. I like the whole flipping of the switch to change the points, so that's not something that I'm worried about. So accessory wise, no DCC. Finally, the only other part of track that's not necessarily caused me a problem with derailments or anything like that, but line 2 coming through here, pretty much every train I've got, including my best running locos, seem to slow down in between this particular bit. From this point here round to here, they always slow down, and I'm not entirely sure why. I've tried looking at the angle and I can't see if there's anything wrong. I might put an additional support underneath here in case it's a case of that it is dipping, but I just can't see it. But yeah, they run around here, slow down. They don't necessarily stop. Some of them do, but most of them don't. And they slow right down, and then they go past the point, and then they start going up to speed again. So it's not a massive problem because it's not stopping the running of the layout, but it is slowing trains down, and on a part where they're mostly visible. It's not like it's hidden behind the back scene or anything like that. Speaking of back scene, that is something else I need to get on with. I keep forgetting about it. I do want to put some boards up so I can put a back scene on them and have it running all the way around here. I need to look at back scenes and see what style will fit the layout. Obviously, because I'm trying to model mine based on a particular location, that'll be something that I need to look at. I obviously want to try and stay as close as I can to my initial idea, but obviously where I'm now basing it rather than it being the actual Fratton, that does give me a little bit of leeway, which I look forward to. So lastly, I have been using the Hornby Bluetooth controller in analog form to control the layout. Because I don't have point switches or anything in yet, it does mean that pretty much I'm running locos just around the 2 outside loops, which is fun. It's quite nice having locos running around whilst you're working on other parts of the track. It's a very basic controller, and it's good for what I need it for at the moment. It's also one of the reasons I've considered going to DCC, because I can only effectively run 2 locos at the moment, whereas now, looking at the ability of what I wanted to do, I'm going to need to get some extra controllers to control points so that I can have a play around whilst things are going around. Might be doable. It's definitely something to look into. But yeah, I think I'll be very honest and say that I didn't think I'd need to go to DCC for this, but I am seriously considering it now. As I said, I've got the Hornby controller, the E-Link one, which when I used it back in the day worked absolutely fine. I just need to sort out some sort of computer that I can install it onto, and then I can use my phone or a tablet or anything like that to control it. In terms of what I've ordered waiting to turn up, at the moment I'm waiting for some more cork. I've got areas of this track that just need some cork underneath it, and then I can secure from that point onwards all the way around here. That's not pinned down. That's something that I need to do. I drilled out the holes for all the new points this morning. So yeah, that was the thing I needed to do before I pinned anything down. I've really enjoyed building this section, and it looks so much better than I thought it would, and I can't wait to get some scenery on there as well. That pretty much wraps up this little video. If I think of anything else, I'll do another video on it, but basically I'm going to be working on points, station, and ballasting as my next tasks, but no doubt there'll be something that jumps up at me and makes me go, ooh, I need to do that, or that would be fun to do. My plan is to try and hold off on extending this section around to here. That doesn't need to be done yet. I need to keep telling myself that doesn't need to be done, because in my head I'm going to go, ooh, that would be fun to have that little section down there, but there's other things to do right now. And this section I'd probably say could be done, because it's a very simple section to do. This will probably need a lot of planning and some point working out, and thinking about what I want to do, which if you have an idea of what you think I should do down there, please let me know. At the moment, I'm happy with it like this as it is. I just need to bear in mind when it comes to ballasting down here to not necessarily go too heavy on the end, because I'll be pulling it up at some point. But yes, putting in this, because I've got a platform already as well, putting this bit of track in, going all the way down on the edge. I think that will look nice, having sort of like the little loco go off on the edge. I might need to install a little corner bit there so that the curve isn't aggressively tight as it goes off and goes underneath. But yes, this is basically just going to be flex track. I've worked out it will probably be 4 or 5 pieces to get up and at least round the corner over there, and then purchasing the shuttle unit to sort of ferry that on and off, and I think that would be quite a fun little thing to have. So yeah, that's the layout as it is. Obviously lots has happened. I've been talking for a long time now, so I hope you've enjoyed this. If you have any feedback or anything, please let me know in the comments down below. If you've had any problems with your layout that I'm experiencing the same things, let me know. And if there's anything you'd like to see on the layout, please let me know. I'm happy to listen to ideas. I know I've got the oil wagon project that still needs doing. Once again, I stopped that one mainly because of my lungs. And yes, there are things that need doing, too many to name. That's where I currently sit at the moment. So thank you very much for watching this. Do the usual things if you like. I'm not going to force you to do anything. Thank you very, very much for watching. And myself, Emperor's Path, we will see you again soon.